Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project, where we bring you inspirational stories and game-changing strategies to live your most awesome life. Hey, superstars, welcome back. Polly here.
What's up, beautiful humans? Sam Pruitt in the house.
Let's go, let's go. All right,
We're
our
having
topic.
so much fun today, dude.
Oh
It's
my
so good.
God. Yeah, you guys, just before airing, Samantha and I we basically recorded a whole nother podcast, right? Or should have on all sorts
That's
of
what we do.
crazy going on. But our topic today, I just wrote, put it into the space. So it's for forced change. So why change feels so scary and how to unlock growth on the other side. It's all about change, right? Change, change, change.
Change will do you good.
And this
That's
is
going to
big.
be the theme song of this episode.
Yeah. And like, it's like, yeah, your brain is going to see it scary and we'll talk about that, but like, embrace it. And yeah, there's so much good stuff in here. So part of this was because you were listening to this podcast,
Hmm.
this wonderful, amazing human, Maya. She's got TED Talks and stuff and a great book.
Shankar, Shankar.
So
Maya Shankar.
that's our inspiration, neuroscientist out of Stanford who went on to, do TED Talks and stuff like that. And it was like, change is a good damn topic. And while we agree with like a lot of what we've heard, neither one of us have read her damn book, but I'm sure it's amazing because she's like worked in the White House and all this stuff. So she's
She
superhuman.
has a
Great.
podcast too.
Oh, she has a podcast too, right? But we're like, well, we can give our own damn spin on change because I think we've been through a few changes ourselves.
Dude, I
Hello?
think of myself as a game changer kind of person that goes out in the world like seeking change. But
Mm,
if I do a little historical moment, and I've been doing that recently, and I'll be doing that for the next year in this course, Year to Live.
yeah.
You do a life reflection, and so every now and then, there's glimpses of your life, however you. But if you do a little bit of an inventory, what I notice for myself personally is it's been nothing but change, and then the
Mm,
reality is everybody's life is nothing but change.
right. Right.
Just pay attention. Open your eyeballs. It's changing every minute,
Mm-hmm.
constantly, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it you don't even notice.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle
Subtle.
undercurrent,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But that's living, that's life.
And one of the things we want to talk about that she talks about in her book and her talks is about forced change versus like chosen change, right? So the changes that we choose, like to be a better human, to stop being an asshole, whatever, like the things that we want to get up to, our goals, our dreams, our self expression, our self evolution, if you will, those are all, I mean, they can have moments of suckness, right? Depending on
Yeah.
what it looks like. But we don't see that as like wah wah wah. It's like, oh my God, I'm getting up to this and I'm growing in this way and I'm shedding that old identity and it's yucky a little
We
bit.
have a hunger for that kind of change. We seek
Right.
that
Yeah.
humanity, and we have a hunger for it, unsatiable sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the life hits you on the side of the head or the detours or the accidents or the diagnosis or the deaths or whatever moments, big,
Mhm.
large, however they impact you. I think the larger the impact, the longer the rebound, the whew, the blowback, if you will. But
Mhm.
both, how do we navigate those is what, and how do we not, just go down into a spiral that we can't get ourselves out of in those moments as well. So we talked a lot, I think, in the world and other podcasts about habit change and growth and getting up to self-expression. So we're probably not going to focus that much on that because you can go listen to those. But I think most of what we should talk about today is about that I didn't want this. Like this,
Mhm.
I didn't ask for this moment, right? Whatever that looks like. And how do we, you know, navigate through that? What's the path through that? So what are you, or do you want to start with a story? Like any stories that we want to tell to, talk about?
Yeah. The neuroscience part of it is really interesting to me because there's a ton of science, and it's like, the people don't like change.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Uh-huh.
They like things to stay the same.
Mm.
They like consistency. They like knowing. And there's actual science that one of the studies, which I thought was hilarious, is people would be brought into these study rooms, and it was going to be electric shock. Okay. And some people were going to get it and some people weren't going to get it. And so half the room was told, you 100% will be receiving an electric shock at some time. And they're monitoring their brains, their cognitive response to this, and their neurons firing and all that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of, when you're going to get it, but you're going to get it. And the other side of the room is, you may have a 50% chance of getting electrical shock today, right? And the difference in these two brains was fascinating, these two people's brains. The people that knew without a doubt, shadow of doubt, they would be shocked, had much calmer
Brain
neuro
activity. Yeah.
response.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
In the
Emotionally
knowing.
regulation was, yeah, brain activity, I'm sure, and then tied to nervous system regulation was a different
Exactly.
than the,
Blood
yeah.
pressure, heart rate, all of the correlations, all of the things that are impacted. And
Right.
then the 50-50s, hell was breaking loose.
Like,
Okay. Just the anticipation, and they call it cognitive taxing. The
mm,
ambiguity caused cognitive taxing. It was basically exhausting these people. The not knowing,
knowing. Yes.
right? The
Yes.
not knowing. And really, that's what we're talking about with change is, first of all, none of us can know.
Yeah.
Okay, but how can we be at peace with that and not run around, henny penny, the sky is falling, emotionally taxed, exhausted, having these responses to every little thing?
Mm-hmm.
And how not to feed that cycle and create more of that than you need to have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And some people let it rule them, and it
Mm,
causes a lot of disorders, by the way,
mm,
which
yeah.
is really unfortunate. And then it's going to happen. Things will happen inevitably to all of us,
Yeah.
including disease and death and aging and changes and whatever. And how to best be prepared, and how to maybe ground yourself in that knowing. Find comfort, believe it or not, in that process.
Yeah. And
So that's kind of what we're about today.
the one thing I just want to clarify is just to give people their power back is when you say, we or the human, right? We don't like this or whatever. So I want to clarify between you, the observer, the spirit, the one in the background of this, and then the mind, right? So your mind does all this stuff. This is the way your brain is built, not you, the soul, the spirit, the the one who's experiencing this. You don't want this, right? Your brain operates this way. I just want to create that distinction. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the brain. That brain, boy, he is, they are tricky, tricky, tricky. So we have to start with what you were just touching on, which
Yeah.
is identity. At the
Mm,
source of all this is this sort of identity battle that we have. And when change comes into our life,
yeah.
unwanted change, we're talking about specifically, it is a identity crisis of sorts. Why is that?
So a couple things I want to say from a hypnotherapist standpoint and all the things that I've read about neuroscience. So your 2 million-year-old brain is designed to have certainty from what it knows, like whatever you have experienced, read about, seen, like your known information that your brain has. That's safe. That's survivable. Like it knows this, and it knows even like avoid that. Like that's a known problem or something like that. Anything outside of that, so like if you had like a circle, anything outside of that circle that it didn't know, like I don't know anything about that, right? It's like death to the brain. It's like at all costs avoid that, right? And so that's that ring of uncertainty is there's the known, safe, survivable, I can live, I can function in this way. We would call it like the hyper controlling, when you
Control.
see people like that or whatever, it's like this is known. Your brain is designed to keep you in that. And when we talked about identity, however you've evolved, right, to create an identity for yourself through experiences, through lived experiences, whatever, how you identify yourself, one of the strongest forces in the human psyche is the need to stay consistent with that known. Like, I am this way. How you identify yourself, I'm this, I'm not that, I can do this, I can't do that. To stay consistent with that, it's this insurmountable like fort. Like I was just talking with our friend Jen this morning, and she was like, I have to get myself to do this thing. Like, I think it has to do with public speaking. She's like, I have to get on these stages because I need to, in order to grow my company, grow my business, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, my brain, my body feels like it's in a prison locked down, like death will happen. That I
Mm-hmm.
told her that I was like, your body and your brain perceive standing on stages as death for some reason because you haven't, like, what could go wrong and stuff like that. So it's a super powerful force if you can get it going in the direct. What I told her is I was like, well, I just want to point out to you that just as powerfully as it's keeping you from doing that, because it associates whatever it associates with powerfully anti. Once you can get that turned in your favor, like it's a force of good. Like it can, like that's what gets you on these ultra things and these amazing things that you've gotten up to in your life, Samantha Pruitt, is like you see that as a good thing to get up to. And it's like you're a force of nature, girl.
Well, I seek those things out, but I wasn't always that way. And a really striking example of what you're referring to is people staying in this known where they feel like they have some control is the cases where people are in abusive relationships or in really toxic jobs. Those are two really big ones that you
Yeah.
see quite frequently. And they'd rather stay in the abusive relationship or the toxic job because it is a known entity rather than knowing these things could literally kill me because they're horrible for me and I don't deserve them. But going out beyond that bubble is scarier. And so their mind has, their thoughts and their mind have convinced them that that is a rational decision.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
any outsider would go, hell no,
Right?
not to go.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fascinating how the brain is designed that way, and
Mhm.
we won't go into like how it works or whatever, but just know like that's why change feels so damn hard, right? And
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to this may be the segue to why when these forced changes or these unexpected changes, especially at the identity level, like we were talking about you with, how what's happened to your back and recently, and I mean you are like athlete 100% head to toe, inside and out, through and through, like see yourself as this athlete. And so you get this left curve thrown at you called, your back injury, and it's like, oh, surgery and what's going to happen or whatever. You come
Hmm.
out of that and it's like, I'm still an athlete. So like what new capacity and stuff. So whatever, if you're, oh, I see myself, like I was telling you about my story of being married, and then the idea of that was a chosen one, but like, oh my God, my brain was like, you talked about being in a relationship, going out and not being married, but that meant this and that meant this and that meant this and all this uncertainty, and like, can I navigate inside this relationship? All the things that my needs aren't getting met and whatnot. So,
Well,
ah,
this is why it's so hard, and we want to really show compassion and understanding. A, we've been there 1,000 times, each of us individually. Plenty of things have gone terribly wrong that we didn't want to happen. Okay, there's a grieving of the loss
yeah,
of your identity attached to not only who you think you are right now, how you identify, but your future self that you envisioned for
right,
yourself. You were marching down this path to
yeah,
be a married woman, to be a business owner, to be an iron ultra woman, to be a whatever, fill in the blank of your thing. And then all of a sudden, that changes out of your control. Something happens, something transpires, and it all changes. And you feel like in that instant that your world and identity have just been shattered,
hmm,
right? And that's pretty brutal. And if you don't have the skills to move through that, you can stay stuck there.
mm,
And that's what we're really hoping to get with people today is like help them work through that. There's no reason to be stuck
yeah.
in that phase.
And we likened it when before we started recording. It's, when there's an external loss in our life, like there's a loved one, right, that passes away, that there's a grieving process. Like
Hmm.
we as a society, as a culture, expect that. Like we've seen it enough, depending on how old you are. Like you just know, like, oh, there's going to be grief. There's something that happens to our heart, right? And I think we don't associate identity loss in these instances where it's like, oh, I'm no longer an athlete because I got paraplegic or whatever, right? That there's going to be an adjustment period, that your heart, your mind, your I look in it too, like when
Hmm.
I thought about the being married or whatever, is like a dream. Like I lost a dream. Like you talked about a
Mm.
vision. It was like, oh, that dream is dead now, right? So like
Hmm.
however you, like you said, you saw your life going, I called it a dream, a vision. That's no longer, that door is closed. Okay. And you grieve the loss of that self, that thing, just like you grieve the loss of a loved one, is what it seems
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
And it's healthy to do that, to allow yourself that process and to be open and honest about it and fully express it. Not
Indeed.
pretend it's not happening or be in denial over it or try and medicate it away because it's there and it needs to be reckoned with almost, right? And I think one of the ways you reckon with it is to get regrounded, if you will, in your values, your
Mm,
sense of worth and
mm,
value system
mm,
that are unconnected to those things,
mm,
to that
mm.
identity, to that particular thing. I mean, it's very difficult to do with the loss of somebody that you love. You know, my sister-in-law, my brother recently passed, and my sister-in-law is in a heavy grief, and I'm in a heavy grief period. That's my brother. This is her husband, right? Died very young, should not have happened. Everybody's in this place of like, what does life look like now?
Yeah.
And for her, her life looks completely different than she ever envisioned, right? And that's going to be a very slow and tender process that she needs to give herself. And all of us who have lost pieces of ourselves or people that we love should allow that process to happen and not to, shy away from it.
Yeah.
But if it's something that happens, let's say I have lost businesses, opportunities, I've moved a lot, and there's lots of stuff that happens in life. Life is chaotic as hell. And since I was young, we moved a lot. So this is kind of a part of my story, apparently. Hello. See why I can live out of a tent and a backpack? I mean,
Bring it.
but if my values are still clear to me
Mm,
and I feel grounded in them at my root,
mm,
then I still feel stable and secure and confident to move forward
mm,
because it's that value system that gives me the strength and the
mm,
comfort and the wisdom to move beyond the incident, if you
mm,
will, the
mm,
circumstances, if you will. I'm not a different person
mm,
because I don't have that job anymore, that business anymore, that home anymore, whatever the thing is. Even if I could never run again with this back injury and going into back surgery, of course, I made a deal with the surgeon going into the operating room, but I mean, that's a whole other thing, which he made good on.
yeah.
Well, I made a
Yeah.
bet. But I came out the other side and it was told to me because of the discovery and the surgery or whatever, you won't be able to run. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I would have tried anyway because that's my nature, but let's say I couldn't. Let's just say I couldn't. I would find other ways to exercise my athletic ability and, even more importantly, my true nature as a human being to be in the outdoors, moving my body.
Mhm,
And even now, I will be slower. I might not be able to do the same things or whatever. It's going to look different.
mhm.
And that's because it's grounded in my value system.
And I think one of the things that I appreciated about that book and that Maya had shared in a couple of stories that I heard her talk about is she talks about how she was a prodigy in learning to play the violin and da da da, whatever. She had this
Yeah.
bright future as a violinist and she was super hyper dedicated and loved it. And it just was like, ah. And then at 15, had an injury and it disappeared, right?
Mhm.
And I was thinking one of the things she talks about is how she went on after the grieving period, she went on a path to discover what was it about that, not just violin, this physical thing and the playing of it that
Mm,
was important to her. I get you on values, but also like, there was like you talked about she had a community. She liked connecting with the audience. She probably loved the discipline of like the practicing or whatever were the things, right?
mhm.
Where can you take that experience and recognize, oh, that's what I love about this? Like if I mean, you have a connection to nature, right? And moving or whatever. Let's say I mean, I don't think you'd ever be bedridden, but it's like, what if you couldn't get outside or you couldn't, whatever? Like, well, what is it that those experiences or that playing of the violin or whatever was meaningful to you that
Mhm.
gave your heart a tap in the heart. Connection was important to her, or the discipline, or being able to improve herself, or connect with the audience. We talked about the fabric of the identity created this community that she was a big part of, and that got ripped away, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean you can't have community ever again. You just don't have that
Exactly.
one, right? Or you can't
Exactly.
ever again connect with people or be in nature, whatever. It's like it's just going to look a little different. So
Mhm.
finding the nuggets of what that brought for you, what that meant for you, and can you recreate it as closely as possible in a different place or somewhere else?
And even better, how can you use that sort of pivotal moment in your life, one of the many that will be coming your way, and be like, Dang. Okay, what's possible for me now? So after you've moved through the grief and after you've started to process and, grounded yourself again in this value system we're talking about, like how can you go, so what's possible now?
Mhm.
And maybe there's things I would have never made time for, had room for, had awareness about that are possible for me now because this thing went away.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now what?
Now what?
Right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
one of the key points that I really, as we talked about, talking about change is helpful for me, or as I look at this in the work that I've ever experienced, is knowing that our brains are meaning making machines. If we don't guide that meaning making with our own lens or give it some guardrails or direction or intention, we can quickly, especially feeling in a place of grief and loss, go down a spiral of hopelessness, helplessness, devastation, doomsdaying, whatever. We can just, not as easily, but just as readily choose questions and empowering direction and intention to guide the brain. Like, well, what else could this mean? Or what's the best, like what could this mean for my future? Like, and guide it in a direction of possibility. Like, wow, I wonder what's possible now that I'm not doing that other thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. So,
Or that I've experienced this moment in time. It's been a year of illness and death in my family and in around me, and it's continuing to be that way up until even this last week. So death is on my mind. How can it not be? It's been a big part of my journey for the last year and a half, really. And like I said, it continues to be. So the gift in that for me is that I have very wide open, full awareness and full open heart to understanding and experiencing my own existence in this body in this lifetime and that of all humans that I interact with. And of course, my loved ones, my friends and family, at a whole other level,
mhm,
right? To the point that literally I'm going to spend the next year studying in this program around death and dying and coming to the terms and taking an inventory of your life, right? Like this is how passionate I feel about it. And I feel what an incredible gift I've been given in these circumstances that I got to be part of these people's lives and death stories. And how can I continue to facilitate that with other people, friends and family, people that I love, and including my own?
yeah.
It's very empowering rather
Mm,
than the opposite of why is this happening and I'm so sad and I can't move through it and I'm going to stay stuck there and none of these like the continuing story of unjust, unfair, unaccepted and all of that kind of stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
This is
And
how I'm choosing to do it. It's different for everybody, but I do want to share my personal experience.
yeah. And I think that's what we're inviting people as forced change shows up in your life. I just started to think of like a little formula. First is, there's a level of acceptance, right? Like things, there's a level of acceptance, grief. I wanted to add in there compassion for the process, right?
Huge compassion required.
Right. And then beginning to look at possible, like what's possible now, right? And how do I want to frame this? How do I want to grow from this? How do I want to move forward from this? How do I want to, change the course of my future? This obviously has happened. That's what's so. Okay, so
Hmm.
what? So what am I going to make it mean? And being with intention, because the questions that you ask in those moments will guide what trajectory you get on, right?
100%. And if you're not capable of asking these questions to yourself, get with people who will ask you these questions and walk you through it. I mean, you and I obviously have this skill set, but like those spaces, whether they're circles or communities or friendships or coaches or whatever, can help you do this.
Hmm.
So if you're feeling stuck or you just can't seem to see through it, sometimes it just simply means you need a helping hand and the support and the space and time for that to be nurtured so you can move through it because we both strongly believe that there's a massive amount of possibility open to you in the next chapter when you are ready.
Hmm.
And so priming yourself to be ready.
And I think one of the things I wanted to just touch upon is whether you do it verbally, like with a coach or a therapist or a loved one, that you have this dialogue. Grief, I think one of the best things, a little bit like when Brene Brown says that, um, shame in the petri dish of acceptance and unconditional love, it just dissolves, right? Like, when you feel seen and heard and whatever. And the same, I think, with grief, like processing it verbally. If you are in that space, there might be like an initial shock, right? And then, or journaling. I just wanted to introduce, like, writing things out, right? And some of this is like putting on the top of a piece of paper, a prompting, and then writing from there. The work of Byron Katie, right, comes to mind, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that true? Do you absolutely know that that's true? Okay. And then, like, like possibility thinking, questions on the top of that page when you're ready to elicit, what could this mean? What's the best outcome from this? What else is possible now? Like, who do I want to become in the face of this? Or right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So journaling, I think, can be a really nice way, because I find that people that get stuck or are over processing or stuck in the process
Mm-hmm.
are either so in their mind that they're not moving it, right? Like, it's just iterations analysis, if you will. So
Yeah.
journaling, speaking it, moving it, walking something, meditations, whatever, but get in action around it. So,
A part I want to mention about the people that tend to get stuck, what I've seen, and I've experienced this for myself, I'm sure many times, is maybe when this thing happens, they have a couple stories they're telling themselves perhaps that are keeping them stuck.
mm.
Like, I deserve this.
Or why is
And
this happening to me?
or why is this happening to me, right? There are different kind of loops of stories that people can get sort of sucked into, that's a bit of a vortex that
Mhm.
will keep them in that stuck place. And that's why breaking that wide open and shining a light on it is the only way to liberate that untruth.
Mhm.
And also, how ludicrous that people think they have that much control
Mm.
over their life or over circumstances.
Mm.
We don't have that much control.
Mm.
Like she references in her book about, she interviews hundreds of people around their stories of change. She's a neuroscientist, so she's a nerd and she wants to study all this stuff, right? But some of the most remarkable stories around people that either got a life threatening diagnosis or something major happened to them physically, right? And time after time, they didn't see themselves as a victim of it, or that this happened to them, right? If they had taken that identity on, it would have held them back from really experiencing the rest of their life.
Mm.
And so, through other pathways of discovery and just really this deep understanding for knowing that everything is impermanent and we really have very little control, there's a huge liberation and freedom there.
Mm. Mm.
We don't control the economy. We don't control the weather. There's so many things. And so if we just walk around on our daily thinking that we have, or we're attempting to hold on to those things, it's really a slippery slope, right?
Well, that's your Buddhist impermanence, right? The
Mm-hmm.
impermanence of this moment, the impermanence of this relationship, this economy, this whatever job, whatever relationship. It's like, if you and I were talking about how I think our lives have been a patchwork quilt of experiences where we put ourselves in uncertainty. Through me, a love of travel,
With
me,
great intention
yeah, with the love of
and quite a bit
travel.
of enthusiasm.
Right? And what it created, so like I think about the amount of times I've been on planes and trains and buses and la 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 whatever, and
Globetrotting.
globetrotting, whatever, and like, oh, whoops, okay, well, now what? Now what?
Oh, I'm in another
Okay.
country accidentally.
Now
Oh,
what?
okay.
Now what? And when you come back from those experiences, right, with a new capacity to face uncertainty, detours, unexpected, they don't always feel good. I'm not saying like, oh, a smack in the face feels fantastic. And you know what? Now what? Okay, now what? Right? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the meaning that we make in that moment, it's I think what we have to, there's a phrase of something like oh gosh, I wish I could remember, but it's basically is like you said, there's so much change, right? And that which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't change is like the essence of life, right? And like who we are, the essence of who we are is the essence of who we are. How our outer circumstances, how all this, whatever, it's like, just remember in your essence, you're not that thing. that that dream,
Role, that
that
role. You're
yeah,
not that role, you're a soul.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Like that, that's the core, and that is not changing, right? That will be here after life, after you make your own transition, right? Like you will still be that essential self, if you will. And that's like always a coming home to that and remembering that, because this
Hmm.
outer game of life, of, this virtual reality of how we see ourselves in this role, and I'm supposed to get up to that, and oh, I'm not doing that now. Um, Let it all go, right? Like, I mean, that's the Buddhist way of like the impermanence of it. Doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So,
And so there are ways, this is where we're getting, and we'll close out the episode with these kind of things like to build that muscle.
yeah.
There are ways
Mm,
you're alluding to it now, like we by choice, sometimes by life circumstance, developed our personalities that are still evolving. I hope to be evolving till the day I die. I really hope I'm still learning and evolving, literally until that moment. And even beyond that moment, I don't know,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. But like we make it our lifestyle to choose things that look pretty. I don't know. Don't know how it's going to go. Looks like a grand adventure. We call them adventures, but right, they are business choices, they're professional choices, they're new relationship choices, they're going to new places, they're meeting new people, they're trying to do things that are really physically hard, that have, so there's so much unknown in all of those
Mm,
things that we kind of
mm,
seek out
mm,
because we understand that that muscle strength, the
mm,
flexibility, and the tone of that muscle, that
mm.
adaptable, nimble muscle, will get us through the hardships of life,
Right.
right?
Right.
Emotional resiliency, people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I call it a high need for variety. So the greater amount of uncertainty and variety you can tolerate, I think life doesn't occur like what's woe is me, right? Like the victim mentality doesn't live inside of a mind where uncertainty is not like you don't want everything, but you're like, okay, so what? Now what? Okay, got it, right?
Well, people work very, very hard to constrain their environments to be highly predictable. And unfortunately, they do it for their children also. So I will give my
Mm.
parents credit. They didn't know they were doing this, creating a shit show called My Life. But hey, you turned out a pretty remarkable person because I can do it. Like chaos can be reigning, and I'm like a freaking ninja, right?
Adaptable, yeah.
But for all other people listening, our audience, by choice, you and or for your children or people that you do have influence over, maybe should examine how you're living the daily and the choices and the surroundings and whatever, and intentionally bring in some unpredictability in order to build more emotional resiliency and flexibility and strength in that muscle, the adaptable muscle. So
Mhm,
when the real shit happens, and I
mhm,
mean real shit is
mhm.
coming, people, when that happens, you're like, we
Yeah,
got this. And
yeah,
it's even better if we got it together.
yeah.
If I can count on you, right? We can go anywhere in the freaking world right now in any circumstance, be dropped there and out of a helicopter with our freaking parachutes and
And
be
we
like,
love it. Yeah, we're up for
what's
that.
up?
We're like,
Like we'd be able to survive and figure it out. And like, we're, like we should be on these game shows and these things where crazy stuff like that's happening. But our audience too can put themselves with intention into these things on a regular basis for
yeah.
new environments, change of scenery. Make things challenging for yourself and for your loved ones
Mhm.
so they can build this muscle.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, like what if you didn't have an agenda for a day or a week, or you went on vacation and you had no plan? You just had a
Totally.
week and you just sort
Totally.
of, like I can remember when there was a time, because I'm very much a planner and I like my schedules and knowing what's going on. And I'll have like these days where I'm like, I'm just gonna, like, I've had that as like a meditative, listening to my inner compass, where I have like a whole day and there's no plan, and I literally will just follow the impulse. It's kind of like where the wind blows me. I'm like, oh, I feel like going in the garden. I'm gonna go out and garden for however long I'm gonna garden, until the
Mhm.
next impulse is like, I'm gonna go shower now, and I'm gonna go this now. And, oh, I'm hungry, and like the last thing I just want to say that I often hear myself either say this to people or think this to myself when they've faced or encountered an abrupt detour, is the serenity prayer. It's
Mm.
just still is as valid to me. Accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things that I can. We talk a lot about that, but like accept the things I cannot change and the wisdom to know the difference, right? Because when we
Mhm.
don't have the wisdom and we resist the change or this shouldn't happen or whatever, that's when just all this upset happens, right? Like that's what's so what to me is like the embodiment of that. I'm like, okay, I accept this change. Okay, so what? All right, I'm still me. I'm still a soul, a beautiful soul here to express. I'm the purpose of love. La la la. Those things are
Mhm.
impermanent, right? They will still be who I am afterward. So it's like, okay, this is what's happened. This is what's happening right now. Okay, got this.
And if you've tuned your intuition, like you were referencing to earlier, having days where you just listen to your intuition, if you've tuned that and then you get into different circumstances, like you have direct communication to that.
Mhm.
Oh my God, my intuition tells me, and I'm going to listen to it, trust it, respect it, and move forward.
Mhm.
Right? You feel it's very empowering to
Mhm.
be in those circumstances and not be just waiting for the next brick to fall, for the next thing or someone else outside of you to make a decision in order for you to be able to move forward in
Yeah,
whatever way needs to happen.
I love it. I love
Hmm.
it. Good stuff. Good stuff. What's your one point? Like, what do you want to remind? Mine is about the direction that questions can guide your mind, right? So the stuckness is either ruminating questions that don't move your life forward, right? Or keep you in helpless, hopeless, doomsday. So having questions that guide the meaning of that take you into the world of possibility in like a potentiality way, not a what's the worst that could happen, but like what's the best that could happen. That's what I really want to leave people with is asking better questions in these moments.
Mm.
How about you?
And I just want to double click with a lot of people have asked me in this last very challenging year, like, how in the hell are you doing this?
Yeah.
They're pretty confused that somehow, like, every 10 minutes something.
Yeah.
And how am I doing it? And how am I doing it pretty gracefully? Not all days. Like I have my days and moments where I'm like, fuck this. I'm
Meltdown.
just
Yeah.
gonna be laying down now out in the woods on the middle of it, whatever. But in general, so they have asked me that, which makes me want to just reiterate then I have trained these muscles, right? So I have chosen a life. Well, first part of my life wasn't chosen for me, right? I was young and growing up. And so my parents, to their,
They
probably having
conditioned
no
you.
intentional idea,
Yeah.
that, yeah, create a lifestyle for me that led me down a certain path. But then once I was a young adult and really a preteen, started owning my life myself quite young because of circumstances and became this very independent person. So I have continued over that long journey of building this muscle, putting myself in places that are challenging, trying new things, new businesses, living in new place, whatever, and really exercising that muscle. So I really want people to know that like I'm relatively gracefully handling this very difficult year because of all of that.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
Not because I'm special or not because I have some magic wand or not because I'm invincible or not because I don't give a shit. It's because of all of that. Every single one of those things.
Yeah. Mm.
So when it gets really serious,
Mm.
I'm still able to stand tall and weather the storm.
Mm.
And I want people to do that for themselves.
Well, and that reminds the parallel I started to see in your life is this life, let's say unintentional conditioning, meaning the circumstances of your young adult childhood and whatnot, uncertainty and being flexible and nimble and like adaptable. You had to adapt that way.
Mhm.
You were forced because of the environment, if you will. It's like, okay, that conditioned that. And then through your life, you've strengthened these muscles and you didn't make it, you weren't so tightly wound, if you will, like, oh, can't have any change, like whatever. It's like, no, I embraced, I got this. Like I've been through this enough, right? And you strengthen that. It's like when you train for your races and stuff, right? So you put yourself in, let's say, a 240 race or a 100 miler or something like that. You have this conditioning that you do beforehand so that when like they hit, boom, go, you're like, all right, I'm on the race, and like, so you've done this life of conditioning and it's like, boom, your brother's got a cancer diagnosis. Whew, okay, gonna navigate this, right? And so that period that you're in that race or whatnot, you've got this life experience that prepared you for that race that you enter of a change moment. You're like, whew, okay, well, here we are. So good.
Exactly. Many, many, many starting lines. The other night I was watching a YouTube video about somebody, I can't even remember, and they were at the starting line of the Western States 100. And so they're like filming it from this angle. And I'm like, I stood right there. I think that's actually me. Holy shit. Right. Like I immediately went back to that moment in my life at that time, standing at the starting line and going, game on, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, like just to the insanity of like all the things I had to do to get there and then being there at that moment and how precious like that experience was.
Mm,
But like stepping into the arena.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
So this is very much man or woman in the arena quote. And if you don't know that by Teddy Roosevelt, look up Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. Okay. And
mm,
Brene Brown did a female version of it.
mm,
It's so beautiful and so eloquent.
mm.
And for a long time, I had that hanging on my wall. But that place is, and it can be a disaster, by the way. Western
Mm.
States was a disaster. I ended up in the med tent. I almost died. I
I
got
want
heat
to.
stroke. I was a complete insane what happened that day. Okay, but I didn't die.
Yeah.
They carried my body off the mountain into the med tent, and I lived to fight another day. Okay, people? So the story wasn't all tragic.
Yeah. You know, it,
So it's not about like them being me getting, warring through and doing it. And, no, sometimes disaster. Somebody you love dying is a disaster. So we're not saying there's always a happy ending,
mm,
but the point is you can handle it.
mm.
This is life.
Preparing you for that race, preparing you for those moments. Yeah.
And what an incredible, rich, epic life you can have if you choose that consciously and you step out of those
Mm,
comfort circles that you referenced earlier.
mm, mm,
There is so much life waiting.
mm.
Sometimes it's a shit show. Yes, granted, but it's also extraordinary.
Adventure, extraordinary adventure.
Oh,
Yeah, I just have, I think this morning in the shower, I was thinking about this moment, like you talked about standing at Western States. I can remember the gratitude I had when I was in the wetsuit going to do my Ironman, and you were standing there with me at 6 o'clock or whatever the hell. And I was moved to tears because I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this moment. And I literally started thinking back behind that. I was like, wow. And that swim, like you talked about Western States, was a fucking shit show. Like survival of the fittest moment. Like, oh my God. So here's what's funny, dude. I think, I was remembering. So, I hadn't swam for training for that damn thing. I was like swimming in the pool or whatever. I remember a month before, I had asked you, there was the it was like, so I did the half Ironman, and there was like a sprint. There was like a sprint triathlon at San Antonio, and you're like, yeah, you should do that, right? So I entered that. You know what? That was a month before. Samantha, I didn't make it to the first buoy, and I was having Charlie horses. I swam on my back, doing the backstroke through the whole thing. I was like the second to the last one getting out of the water.
yep,
And I got
yep.
out of that. And I went, holy fuck! And then and then I can remember. You remember me in that training for the Ironman, getting in the water, and it took me an hour to warm up. Like I was shivering so bad. I was
Freezing.
like
Took
so
50
many,
degree waters, people. Yeah. Arctic bullshit.
so many breakdown. I was like the swimming. Like if you had looked at like this girl's not like if you had said, hey, this is going to be the swim of your life. Like I didn't know
Yeah.
it, right? And
Yeah.
they said, how's your swimming been going? I'm being that was not my strongest moments. I was like, did a backstroke over here, got, like practically last place in that swim. And oh my God, almost died, doing the practice swims and all this
Totally.
stuff, whatever. And I show up to the swim and I'm like glowing in gratitude. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do this. And then I jump and didn't know I was about to do swim for your life moment. But like, this is
Yeah.
life.
The tide turns and tried to suck you all out. And that's why half the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
DNF'd and got yanked out of the water, didn't make it out of the water. I mean, that was really literally a life and death situation. And you were able to not only complete that and in the time cap and keep moving and finish the whole damn race, by the way. Hell yes.
Mhm.
But seriously, to get to the starting line, knowing what you were about to enter into with gratitude, with grace, with joy,
Mm,
that's freaking remarkable. That is the freaking money.
mm,
That is the money called your life. And
mm.
that's what we're telling people to get up to. Like, what is their story?
And you know, and what just came present to me is fear. You can either be in fear or gratitude, right? So I could have been and I don't even know how, whatever. Maybe it's because you were there, because I was so grateful for you being there that whole day. And I'm still so moved by that. But like, I could have stood at that starting line and been fucking scared to death. Like, this water
Mhm.
has frozen the shit out of me every time I've gotten in it.
Yep.
I don't, like my last swim went horribly wrong. And this is way more tide, way harder, way more people in the water. Like, so many, like, whatever. But I was so in a state of gratitude going into that water. And it was like,
Mhm.
it wasn't easy, but right. And so, like, the state we're in can shift so much. And
That's what gets you through it.
yeah,
That's what not only allows you to show up and do the hardest things of your life,
grace, grace and grace.
holding your brother's hand while he's dying, starting a race that you know you could literally die in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
But you don't get to the starting line of those experiences without doing this work.
Mm,
And this is the call to action.
mm,
Get busy doing it now on whatever level you can. And when the shit happens, and it will,
mm-hmm.
embrace it,
Mm-hmm.
learn from it, ground in your values, move forward.
Yeah.
Because at some point, it's going to be these epic things like you and I are talking about, where really everything is on the line.
And guess what? You have survived 100% of the changes you've already experienced.
Hmm.
You've survived
Yeah,
them.
you're pretty damn good at it. I
Hey,
don't
guess what? However this look, you have survived them. So just be like, check, I got change. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. Don't always love it. Okay, I got it. I got it. And it's the dip. Like, how quick, how short can that dip be? Get it? Is bloop, okay, and off we go, right? The ones that rebound most readily make that dip as short and narrow as possible. They don't make it deep and take forever. So there's going to be a dip, but you can come back. So
Yeah,
love it. All right. What do you want to
it's
tell our
good.
beautiful humans as we sign off today? What do we want to share?
Oh, how your life feels sucks. Just kidding.
Change.
Motto change. Oh, God. How your life feels is the most important thing, not how it looks.
Mm. And every day is your opportunity to find your awesome.
So go find it.
Do it.
See you next time. See?